Jason Gilbo here at JGilbo11, taking a look at some GPP bets for tonight's slate. Looks like as far as weather concern goes, Baltimore is the only one with a real possible postponement chance. So keep an eye on that one as we head throughout the day. Not a lot of bets I'm really looking to use anyway in that one. Raise lefties makes sense, but that's about it. But looking at catcher here first, and some intriguing options. A little bit of a price differences on both sides. Looking at FanDuel, we get Jonathan Lucroy and Matt Wieters, who are both at 2,900. Really nice spots for them. Wieters, cheap Coors bat, probably going to hit, 7th or 8th still. But you're looking at Anderson, has really struggled to start this season. Add the addition that's in Coors, allowing over a 350 WOBA to righties going back to last year. So Matt Wieters makes sense at 2,900 on FanDuel. I don't mind him. As far as like a DK guy with a similar price tag or something nice, really do like Yasmani Grandal, only 3,200. You look at Matt Cain, this guy's allowed over 400 WOBA to lefties since last year, 1.23 home runs per 9. Grandal, good power hitting catcher, over 200 ISO against right-handed pitching since last year. I definitely don't mind that price tag at 3,200. He's certainly an intriguing option. As far as other guys, I don't mind them. I think Lucroy, Grandal, and Wieters take the cake tonight. Chris Herman, if you need a punt on FanDuel, I don't mind using him there. He's cheap. Check if he's in the lineup first. But you look at Chastain, this is a guy who struggled on the road all last year. 3.36 WOBA to lefties. So I don't mind 2,200. If you do need to punt a catcher, I'm certainly okay with that. As far as first base goes, and this is obviously one where it's really top heavy tonight. Ryan Zimmerman going to come in as one of the chalky options, but obviously against the lefty in Coors, he's going to get that big bump. I'm certainly okay with going that route. I think an intriguing spinoff would be Joey Votto going up against Matt Garza. You look at Votto, near 400 WOBA off righty since last year. 236 ISO. Guy does not strike out a ton. You look at Matt Garza, who's really struggled against lefties in that ballpark. Not a big transition from Great American. So I do like Votto as kind of that pivot away from Zimmerman. But obviously Zimmerman's kind of makes sense as the guy to look at tonight. Once it's top heavy, I think the next viable guy down would be Mike Napoli. Guy's a good power source. We're looking at a fly ball pitcher in Phil Hughes. Napoli, obviously, over a 200 ISO against right-handed pitching last year. So, it is certainly intriguing to go with that route. I think the Texas bats are I think they're great plays in terms of GPP options because Coors is going to carry a lot. I still think Arizona is going to carry a decent amount too. I just think overall we're looking at Napoli. It's just a low-end contrarian option if you're looking to pay down just a little bit. Outside of that, though, it's definitely a position where you're looking to pay up. I don't want to get behind and get too low at this spot. Guys like Eric Hosmer, Jose Abreu, Adrian Gonzalez just don't have the upside for me on tonight's slate. I think paying up, we're looking at this one here. So second base, if you are paying up, obviously Daniel Murphy, this guy has handled lefties. I don't mind him in Coors. So I'm certainly okay with using him. As far as other guys go and possible pivots, Odor continuing the Napoli trend. I'm certainly okay with going that route. You just look at what Phil Hughes has done since last year. 377 WOBA to lefties, high home runs per 9 in that ballpark. So with the Odor hitting in the middle of the lineup, struggling. Most of these bats are kind of hitting a little struggle here to start the season outside of maybe some boomer bust guys like Gallo. Mazzara had a nice hot stretch, just cooled off a little bit. So Odor is definitely in play for me. If you're looking to really get down there in terms of price, Chase Utley's probably going to hit 7th or 8th, filling in for Forsythe. He's a salary relief play at most against Matt Cain, who I don't mind picking on. So I'm certainly okay with using him. Third base is certainly a fun one tonight. I mean, Arenado's obviously a guy you can take a look at. Jacob Turner's getting the start for Washington. Over his career, has allowed a 371 WOBA to righties, 1.48 home runs per nine. Tossing Arenado, his Coors numbers against right-handed pitching, going to be one of the chalkier third basemen, but I mean, I certainly don't mind going that route tonight. If you're looking at a spin off of him, really like Jake Lamb. He's always kind of underpriced on DraftKings. He's only 4,300. On FanDuel, I still don't mind him either. I think he's certainly in play, 3,900, so still 1,000 cheaper than Arenado. He's certainly in play for me tonight in that ballpark. Chase Field, Arizona's averaging about 8 runs so far to start the year there. Lamb, 369 WOBA off right-handers, 272 ISO since last season. Once again, add the fact that it's in Chase Field. A great pivots away. With third base having such high-end options, it's hard to kind of take down low, but David Freese, interesting option tonight if you do want to look for a value at the position and say you're loading up on outfield, say you're looking to play guys like Bryce Harper or Charlie Blackmon, and getting exposure there. David Freese off to a decent start this year, only 3,200 on DraftKings, 2,500 on FanDuel, over 200 ISO against lefties since last season. Brett Anderson isn't giving me anything to really worry about here. So he has a cheap source. I mean, Pirates do have a couple cheap, platoon guys that I don't mind tonight that you can certainly look to give some exposure to at a cheap price to help fit in those Coors bats. But that's about it at third base in terms of bats that I am considering. Looking at shortstop, I mean, Trey Turner obviously steps in as one of the better options on tonight's slate. Once again, going to be chalky. I think a good pivot off him is obviously Trevor Story. But I'll look one step deeper here with Corey Seager. Obviously not going to have the ballpark that they have, but you look at Seager, I mean, absolute monster against right-handed pitching, facing one of the poor pitchers in the game now, Matt Cain. You look at Seager, I mean, 398 WOBA since last year against right-handers, 222 ISO. Really like that price tag over on FanDuel, 3,300, so a good pivot down. DraftKings is a little bit high, but still cheap enough for me to consider in comparison to the other guys. Next one, I mean, Jordy Mercer is that other Pirates bat that I was talking about at a really cheap price tag near punt value. You look at Mercer, 361 WOBA off lefty since last season, 125 WRC plus. Definitely a guy who's probably going to sneak up into the top, probably lead off once again against the lefty tonight. So if you are looking to save some cash at shortstop, Mercer is an option. As far as outfield goes, I mean, Bryce Harper, he's there, but Jesus, you're going to have to pay an extensive price tag to get him. I don't mind him. I don't mind using him, but I'm going to talk about Charlie Blackmon here as a drop-down option. You look at Turner, he's struggled more against righties than he has against lefties, but still has allowed a 321 WOBA and over a 30% hard contact rate. Also doesn't miss a ton of bats. And you also look at Blackmon, I mean, 392 WOBA against right-handed pitching, over 200 ISO. In that ballpark, I mean, like I said, the price difference is about $1,000 on both sides from him to Harper. So Blackmon obviously can do it all, steal bases, hit for power, drives and runs. I like Blackmon quite a bit tonight. And I think we're going to head back here to some Texas bats as far as GPP pivots. I mean, Nomar Mazara, talked about him cooling off a little bit earlier, but you look at against Phil Hughes, talked about his struggles, and you just look at Mazara. I mean, since last season, 347 WOBA, 181 ISO, in that ballpark where things really tend to fly out. I like it quite a bit. I do like the Arizona bats as well. AJ Pollock, David Peralta against Chastain, who struggles on the road. Hoping that they fly a little bit under the radar tonight. Pollock being a higher priced option, but I don't mind it. David Peralta is kind of the cheaper alternative tier 2 type guy. If you want to look to get a little bit more contrarian tonight, I don't think Robbie Grossman's in a bad spot here against Perez in that ballpark. I mean, Grossman has some power. You look at him since last year, 226 ISO against left-handed pitching. Perez struggles in Texas. He does roll a lot of ground balls. He doesn't miss a ton of bats. Guys like Miguel Sano, Brian Dozier, going to go really under-owned in a good ballpark against a mediocre lefty. So if you are building multiple lineups or looking to be really contrarian tonight, I definitely don't mind those two guys. As far as other guys, I mean, it's kind of tough. I mean, Jason Hayward makes for a reasonable DK play. 3,400. He's starting to heat up. I mean, 381 WOBA righties so far this season, only an 11% strikeout rate. I'm kind of keeping an eye on once the lineups come out if we get any like real outfield value. But I think outfield is definitely a spot where you can look to pay up for. You can definitely look to kind of get those mid-range guys in like Peralta, like Hayward, like Mazzara, who are decently priced on both sites. So that's going to wrap things up here with GPP picks. You can head on over to dailyfantasycafe.com, check out our great tools and content.